So welcome to DynamicsCon. I am Mary Thompson. I work at Cooper Perry IT, and I am our Dynamics Angel Guru. That means I help partners build their own Business Central practice. I have been completely obsessed with Business Central since 2018, whenever it first came out. I've been passionate about helping small businesses for about 20 years now. Also, if you want to find me and follow me for more information, you can find me on Twitter at mm090511. Today, we are going to be talking about extending Business Central with the Power Platform. For today's agenda, we're going to talk about why extend Business Central. We're going to look at the Business Central ecosystem. We're going to go over a brief overview of the Power Platform so you understand what we're working with. And then we'll take a quick look at how to create new entities from Business Central. Then we'll get into the fun stuff, the demo. So first we're going to look at why should I try to extend my system? I think the better question would be, why shouldn't you? It's a really great way to customize solutions. And oftentimes we have some limitations inside Business Central. And this is a great way that you can overcome that. One of the best things about extending it is that's a really great way to make your business processes more automated and creating efficiency. And finally, whenever you have that efficiency, you're really empowering employees. And isn't that what we're all really here for? As promised, we're first going to walk over the Business Central ecosystem just a little bit. So on my screen, you'll see down at the bottom, it all sits on top of the previously known Common Data Service, now known as the Better Dataflex Pro. So it's also connected with Azure AI, and we'll get to that a little bit later on as well. Because all of this sits right on top of the Common Data Service, also known as Dataflex Pro, and it's in the cloud, you have the extensibility across the entire Microsoft ecosystem. On the far left of the screen, you'll see the Power Platform, and on top of that, App Source, which we'll get to as well. You also have the ability to have pro development apps, so you can combine both citizen development and pro development. You naturally have access to Office 365 and in the entire Dynamics 365 suite as well. And then it allows you to have very efficient business processes and briefings, proofs of concept, that type of stuff to easily work out to have a fully seamless integrated system. Next, we're going to talk about the Power Platform, right? So maybe you've heard of it, maybe not, but I'll give you a refresher anyways. It's a low-code platform. It spans the entire Office 365, Azure, Dynamics 365, and standalone applications. It includes Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent. It also has the data connectors and AI Builder and Dataflex Pro, since it sits on in the cloud as well. So now we're going to talk a little bit deeper about Microsoft Power Platform, where you're going to analyze, act, and automate. It's about connecting business data in a well-structured form that facilitates reasoning over it. But it's not just your business application data. You have productivity and collaboration data from Office 365, including email, calendars, phone messaging. You have access to connecting to professional networks like LinkedIn for contacts, connections, skills, and employment history. You also have other external solutions, such as partnership with Adobe, and you're now also able to add marketing data using Business Graph. You can light up a business process by delivering a truly personalized solution. The first area that we'll talk about in the Power Platform is one of my personal favorites. We call it Power Apps. It's It's all about providing a low-code way to rapidly build apps for mobile and the web. It's easy to connect to your existing data, and because the Business Central is in Azure and in the cloud, you can also do this whether you're on-prem or in the web-based application. You also have access to strong enterprise governance and security, and you can put your data to work for all the other apps that are in your common data service or Dataflex Pro system. Also, you have your Pro Dev extensibility. Another area that we'll look at a little bit deeper today is Power Automate. And it's all about automating your business processes, which is great, especially in the SMB market. Often, you're going to have what I like to call a mom and pop shop, and you have one person or just a few people in your team wearing multiple different hats. So time is money, and the quicker that you can automate your processes and get everything done that way, the more efficient you're going to be. You can create either simple or complex automations. You also have the new RPA, which allows you to create automated processes for systems that aren't even inside of Dynamics 365. And again, we're bringing over that strong enterprise governance and security as well. Fun facts that we'll look at a little bit later as well is Business Central has 14 out-of-the-box templates and then over 20 triggers and actions to make it really easy to just plug and play. And we'll show that in our live demo. With Power BI, you can build custom reports or use out-of-the-box options that are easily integrated right inside Business Central. And this allows you to connect your data to any source and find the best way to view your data. And you can also utilize your reports in a mobile application and take them on the go with you, which is really great for your salespeople and your business team on the road. Now, I've talked a lot about it, and we're going to go just a little bit more into talking about Dataflex Pro, which is the out-of-the-box database for your apps. It's a fully managed, secure database that has Microsoft data from Dynamics 365, Office 365, and Azure already pre-populated. It supports the other models, which also include a well-defined schema for various industries or verticals. It really puts everything where you need it to be, and it's the oil essentially that runs the engine. Data is the oil that runs your engines. Speaking of connectors, there is built-in connectivity to over 200 plus cloud services that includes files, databases, and web APIs. This gives you a seamless hybrid connectivity to on-prem systems as well as the data gateway. You can also create your own custom connectors in case one of these isn't sufficient for your business needs. It's a really easy way to customize the product for exactly what your business is looking for. Let's talk about that AI builder just a little bit. Again, it's a low-code approach to be able to create applications that are perfect for your business. You see here that we have form processing, object detection, and text classifications. It's how you can put your data to work for you and streamline processes. So some examples that you can do with these easy to train pre-built models are there's a business card reader. Again, we're talking about traveling salesmen. They can take a picture and pop it of the card and it'll automatically read, and you can have that create a new contact right inside Business Central. You can also use some of the pre-built AI models to automate vendor invoicing. Like we keep saying, time is money, and anytime you can help a small business save some time and make the efficiency better, it's a win in my book. Now, even though we have some already pre-built options, you can also create a web service that's not currently exposed inside of Business Central. What you can do is you just create a new entity in here, and you see that you have a couple different options. You can either create a new data set, create a copy of an existing data set, or edit an existing data set. And this becomes really important whether you want to maybe create a new app, or most commonly seen that this is used in reporting and inside of Power BI. So now you've heard me do all the talking, and now I'm going to get to doing the showing. So here's to finger crossing that everything goes well. All right, as promised, we're going to get to building some of the live demo actions. But first, before we do that, I just wanted to take a second to walk through on how you can actually create your own web service. We won't be using this in our demonstration, but it's always a good thing to know. So as you see here, I just went and I searched all my web services. So right here you have a pretty extensive list of all the ones that are already created. You see company setup, some important ones will be customers, trial balance, item card, but maybe you need to have something that's not here, or you want to create a copy. It's really easy to do. What you'll do is you'll go to Actions, you'll do New Document, and you'll do Create a Data Set. And then it's just going to run you through this really easy wizard. So you have the option, as we previously discussed, to create a new data set, create a copy, or edit an existing. You're going to be limited if you're only creating a copy of one that's already exposed or editing an existing data. If you create a new data set, though, you get a whole new world of opportunities. So that's what we're going to look at right now. So you can name it whatever you want. I'll call this DynamicsCon. Great. Now, you can either choose from a page or a query. You can often find this in some documentation for the Business Central development if you're looking for a specific data or page or query, but you can also use a look-as-you-go approach. So obviously a page is going to be a listing, and a query is going to be a summation of of data that's already been posted. So we'll look at some pages to begin with. You see here I have this little ellipses, and it gives me all of these options, which are actually far more than what we just previously saw, of areas that you can go ahead and expose. Now, I'll just pick any of them. It doesn't really matter for right now. So I'm going to say this page right here, right? Item list, page 31. And then I'll select that and go ahead and hit OK. So now we see here, and we call this DynamicsCon. This will be important to be able to find it. And I'm just going to take a note of 31 and DynamicsCon. Great. And then we're going to go ahead and hit Next. Now, this will bring you to an area where it's going to say, which fields do you want to include in your data set? So this allows you, once again, to customize something. So maybe you just need a few parts and not the whole data set, or there's really some specific ones that's in a pre-exposed data set that you need that weren't previously listed. So you can go ahead and say, okay, I want my item number, I need the description, I need the type, maybe I need to know my stock keeping units. And really you can just go through here and pick and choose. Costing method, I need that one. And maybe you need to know if it's a standard cost. So as you can see here, there's many, many different options that you can go through and pick. And again, this will be the available fields whenever you go and create this new entity. If you don't select the field here, you won't see it later on. So it's important to make sure that you get exactly what you want. And I always like to say more is better. So sometimes I just pick everything and then decide later. So from here, I can go ahead. You can also add additional filters if you needed. Maybe you only needed numbers through a certain area or a certain type of inventory items to come over, items, service, or whatnot. So it's a great way to use some additional filters. You can also add a filter if one's not already there. Again, a really great way to customize this entity to be exactly what you need. Once you have everything listed just the way you want it and filtered to the way that you need it, you go ahead and you hit Publish. So this is going to go ahead and give an OData URL. But you see here that this one says OData v4. So we're going to leave that one just for right now. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. So now what I want to do is I'm going to sort by object ID just so that I can find it nice and easy when I come through. Oh, let me give it a second to refresh. Let me go by items because that was the one that we looked at. Sometimes it takes just a second to provision. Here, now we see our DynamicsCon right here. Again, I like to put a unique service name. That way I understand if it's the out of the box option or my option that I just recently created. So now we're going to scroll over. And again, like I said before, you had these two different options. So this is the OData v4 that was previously posted. But if you want to drop it into a new entity inside Power Apps, then you're actually going to copy. I'll go ahead and copy this link here. Then I'm going to switch over here to Power Apps at make.powerapps.com. Make sure you're not in your default environment and drop down here and go to Entities, which is where we're at. And then I'm going to say, go ahead and get data, which means I'm going to create my own. Great. So now here you have all different types of options where you can get your data from. Again, all of this here is all accessed on the new Dataflex Pro, which is why we talk about it to death. But for this one, we're going to go ahead and pick an OData feed. And where I previously copied my URL, I'm just going to paste that right into here. And now it's going to go ahead and ask you to do an authentication, but it's already synced up and knows that this is me. But basically, this is your different thing. You want to make sure that you're signed in correctly with the right user, with the right access level. So I already have all of that done. You want to have it to organization. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that be. And I'll go ahead and hit next. Now it's going to go ahead and have itself another thing. And what it's doing is it's loading the query that we just exposed and pulled out from Business Central. So as you can see here, we now have a whole list of items. And you have this Power Query here. If you're familiar with Power BI, then you're probably very familiar with this Power Query. But again, across here, you can see a bunch of different fields. This is the area that I talked about before, that you have to hit it as one of the fields that you want. So you see here, we had costing method. Remember, I pulled that one out. We had standard cost. So we can see that we have everything that we asked for. Now, maybe you went with my more is better approach, but then here you're like, oh gosh, that really is more than I want. No big deal. All you do is you highlight, you hold down the control key and then highlight the different fields that you want, and we'll pull these over by doing so. And then I'll hit next. Let it do its magic here. Great. So now we're going to actually load it into an entity. And you have a couple different options again. You can either load it into a new entity, you can load it into an existing entity, and if you see that here, you see that these are some previously defined entities, in which case you would map it. So I think that there is an item one, and if you pulled up the item in here, then you would just map it over. But for this case, we're going to just do load to a new entity. And then I'm going to call this DynamicsCon items. And then I want my entity name and my display name to be the same. And we'll say this is a demo for this great conference. And yep, and so what it's going to do here is it's automatically going to map everything. For the destination field type, you can either choose to have multi-text or just regular text. And then we'll go ahead and we'll create next. Now you have the option to refresh manually. which can be, you know, will be triggered by a button or something to that extent, or just to refresh automatically. And then if you do refresh automatically, you can identify the sequence and the time frame of how often that you want it to pull. So obviously these are your different options, and it really just depends on what you need and how quickly you need it to update. I'll do manually for now, and then hit create, and it'll go ahead and create its own entity. And we'll see it. It gives it a second. It needs to upload in the system, but basically that's how you do that. So now I'm going to actually jump into creating our own app with some out-of-the-box connectors. So I'm going to jump into here up to apps. Again, I'm in makepowerapps.com, and I'm going to do a new app, and I'll do a Canvas-driven app for now. Again, as I mentioned previously, there's a bunch of different connectors that are out of the box that you can use. And I'm going to go ahead and connect to my Business Central one that's right here. If I wanted a new connection, then you have all of these options. As I mentioned previously, you can do this whether it's Business Central on-prem or in the cloud. We'll stick with this, and then we'll create. And then again, you see, I'm going to delete one of that, that's just fine. So what we have here is you have your different data sets that you can choose from. And so what you're doing is you're going to say, I need it to pull from this company. So you see I have a couple here, but I'm going to pick from Cronus for now. And then these are all of the entities that are out of the box. So these are going to match the pre-published web services that we looked at already. If something's not in here, then that's when you would create your own. And then you have to do a little bit more mapping. So I'm going to do customers, and I'm going to hit connect. And then I'm going to sit back and watch the little screen do its magic as it go ahead and builds a really easy app for me right now. It's loading, it's doing its thinking, and it's still a lot quicker than if I were to do it myself. Great, and you can give a preview, but we'll skip that. So now we see a whole listing of customers that are already inside the system. This is on our browse screen. You see a few different screens that I have here. We also have a detail screen that gives us a different view here, or you have an edit screen. Now all of these, you have different, you see the different codes up here, and this means new form. If I press this, and I'll show you that in a second, or a detail screen, this allows me, you see up here where it says edit form, and what that means, it's actually going to take me to this next edit screen. So I'm going to leave, actually let me save this. I'm going to call this DynamicsCon customers, and I'll save that. Great. Go back here. And now I'm going to go up to this little play button just to give you an idea of how easy this was to create and what it does. Let me close out of this screen. Actually. All right, so now I'm going to show you what this app would actually do for you. You can go up here and you can hit the preview app. And we'll see, I'm going to hit a new button because I'm a traveling salesperson and I just was at lunch, but I talked to somebody really great and they want to be a customer of ours. So I'm going to go ahead and get them added in our system right away. I don't know all of the information. I don't need to fill in that, but what I do know is that their name was Dynamic Consulting and they want to be a new customer. And I got their phone number real quick. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Great. So I'm on the road. I've got that in and I can see that. Now, if I go back up here and I look at my customers inside Business Central, voila, you see that I very easily added Dynamic Consulting in there. But wait. Maybe my customer service rep who's back at the office has no idea why this showed up and they'd like some type of notification. No problem. Let me show you how easily we can create a flow and kind of give you an idea on how you can make and automate different processes to make the system a lot more easy for your users. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new automated from blank flow. And so I'm going to call this DynamicsCon customers. And then again, I'm going to search for Business Central. And then we see a bunch of different options here when a business or when a record is created or modified or changed or deleted. But for this opportunity, we're just going to do when a record is created because we just created a new customer. So again, we have very easy drop-down options. You can choose production, which is the one that I already have. That's going to match that previous connector when we said which one to connect with. Then I need to pick my company. We already said we wanted Cronus. And then for the table name, I want it to match the table for this situation. I'm going to do customers because that's the one I want to be notified of. Then I'll do a next step. And I'm going to click on my Office 365 because I'm going to have it send me an email. And I'll easily type in send an email. And then I'll send it to myself. It's got smart logic, so it knows who I am. And I'm going to say new customer action needed. So what this is going to do in this subject area here, this can be the subject of my email. Now, in the body here, I can change to whatever different format I want. Maybe I want to make it bigger because I'm blind personally. And then we'll do here, just simple, just to give it a little bit of a customized feel to the email. So here what we'll say is we'll say new customer. And I lost my thing here. So I'm going to change the font a little bit. We'll make it a little bit bigger, make it bold, and then we'll say, please send credit application. Wonderful. So I'm going to save this here. And then now what I can do is I can go ahead and test this. So I'll say that I'm going to perform and save this. And then we'll go back to our app right here and we'll create a new customer once again. And this time we're going to say Molly is our new customer, and we'll enter a quick phone number here as well. Just to hit OK. All right, so let's check it out. We see a couple different things. Look in our customers here. Of course, we see Molly. We already knew that part was going to work. Now you see that the flow is having a think. So it's checking to make sure that it's all working. Great. So we see that from here that it all worked. Our flow ran successfully. And I just heard the ding that tells me I've got an email. And I see right in here, a new customer has been added. Please send out a credit application. So then my service rep would go in here and they'd say, oh, I do have Molly as a new customer that wasn't there before. And they can go ahead and set out the credit application. Now there's a few things to desire in this. A current limitation is that, as you can see in here, there's an option for some dynamic content, and this one just has row ID. So essentially what you would do is you could hit this, but that's going to give us a number that we don't want. So I'm still waiting for Business Central and this connector to improve just a teeny tiny bit so that we can have it to say customer, or potentially there's another aspect that you can have here where you would pass that information through. So at least you can see some of the possibilities that are here whenever you're able to easily pull out of the box options for connectors, whether it be for an app or for a flow, and where if we had some pro development in here, we could easily modify that email message even more. I want to thank everyone, including the DynamicsCon conference, for putting on this amazing series for us. Also, thank you so much for everyone who voted for me and wanted to see this presentation. Really glad that you did that and hope that you enjoy it. You can find me anywhere on here. I've got my email, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, also some YouTube videos. And if you want to send me a form, you can scan the little code here and I'll send an email back to you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you for joining. I can't wait to see you at the Q&A next.